Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided the mining drone deeper into the asteroid's core. The massive space rock designated TK-7739 had shown unusual mineral readings, and his corporate bosses wanted every valuable element extracted before the next quarterly report. What they didn't know was that Marcus had been skimming small amounts of rare metals for himself, building a nest egg for early retirement. The drone's sensors suddenly went crazy. The display showed impossible readings, refined metals, complex alloys, and energy signatures that made no sense for a natural asteroid. Marcus frowned at the screen, wondering if the equipment was malfunctioning again. The mining company was notorious for using outdated gear held together with spare parts and prayers. "Control, this is Miner 7. I'm getting weird readings down here. Might need a tech to look at my equipment." Static crackled through his headset before the response came. -7. We're behind schedule. Keep drilling unless you hit something catastrophic. Marcus shrugged and continued guiding the drone. The company only cared about quotas and profits, not worker safety or equipment accuracy. He had learned not to expect much support from the orbital station. The drone pushed through another layer of rock, and suddenly, the readings spiked so high that alarms started blaring in his cockpit. The drilling stopped abruptly. Through the drone's camera, Marcus saw something that made his heart race. Instead of more rock, there was a smooth metallic surface reflecting the drone's lights. The metal had an unusual blue-green tint that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. He had never seen anything like it in 15 years of asteroid mining. Marcus maneuvered the drone for a better view. The metal surface stretched beyond the camera's range, disappearing into darkness on all sides. This wasn't a small deposit or random debris. This was something enormous buried deep inside the asteroid. His hands trembled as he realized what he might have found. "Holy hell," he whispered, forgetting that his comm was still open. 7, repeat that last transmission. Nothing, control. Just hit a particularly stubborn rock formation. Continuing operations. Marcus quickly switched to a private channel and started recording everything. If this was what he thought it was, he needed documentation. The corporate vultures would try to steal credit and profits from any discovery he made. He had seen it happen to other miners who found valuable deposits or unusual materials. The drone's cutting laser activated, and Marcus carefully began creating an opening in the metal surface. The material was incredibly tough, requiring maximum power settings to make even small cuts. Sparks flew in brilliant streams as the laser worked, creating a shower of light in the asteroid's dark interior. After 30 minutes of careful cutting, Marcus had created a hole large enough for the drone to enter. He guided it through the opening and gasped at what the cameras revealed. He was looking into a vast chamber filled with what could only be described as technology. Curved walls covered with panels, screens, and devices that defied easy description stretched away into the distance. This was not a natural formation. This was not human technology either. The design was too elegant, too advanced, too different from anything he had ever seen. Marcus realized he was looking at the interior of an alien spacecraft, buried inside an asteroid for who knew how long. The drone's lights illuminated control panels covered with symbols that hurt to look at directly. They seemed to shift and move when he wasn't focusing on them, as if they existed in more dimensions than his eyes could process. Banks of equipment lined the walls, connected by cables that pulsed with faint energy even after what must have been centuries of inactivity. Marcus flew the drone deeper into the ship, following what appeared to be a main corridor. The vessel was enormous, easily the size of a city block. Room after room revealed more incredible technology, all dormant and waiting. He passed what looked like living quarters designed for beings much taller and thinner than humans. The proportions were all wrong, suggesting the ship's original crew had been very different from Earth's inhabitants. In the center of the ship, the drone's cameras revealed what could only be the command center. A raised platform held a chair that seemed to be grown rather than built, its organic curves flowing seamlessly into the floor. Banks of displays surrounded the chair in a perfect circle, though all were dark and lifeless. As Marcus maneuvered the drone closer to the command chair, something unexpected happened. One of the displays flickered to life, showing symbols that writhed across the screen like living things. More panels activated in sequence, creating a cascade of light that spread throughout the command center. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, his hands frozen on the drone controls. A voice spoke from the speakers, though it wasn't coming through his communication system. The voice seemed to emerge from the drone itself, speaking in perfect English despite the clearly alien origin of the ship. Power levels, critically low. Emergency protocols, engaged. Scanning for compatible energy source. Marcus's blood turned to ice. The ship was talking to him. Or rather, something inside the ship was talking to him. The voice had a strange quality, as if it was speaking through layers of static and time itself. Warning. Life support systems, offline. Crew status, unknown. I haven't been recharged for, calculating, 743 years, 8 months, 16 days. The voice paused, and Marcus could hear what sounded like electronic breathing through the drone's audio pickup. When it spoke again, there was something almost human in its tone, loneliness, perhaps, or desperation. Please, identify yourself. Are you, friend or foe? Marcus stared at the screen, his mind racing. He was talking to an artificial intelligence from an alien ship that had been drifting in space for over 7 centuries. This was the discovery of a lifetime, the kind of find that would rewrite human understanding of the universe. I'm human. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a miner. I found your ship by accident. Human. The AI seemed to process this information. Species classification, unknown. Technological assessment, primitive. Threat level, minimal. Marcus Chen, designation accepted. I am, designation translates as Keeper of the Void. I have maintained ship systems during the long sleep. Your crew, Marcus asked carefully. What happened to them? Static filled the channel for several long moments. When the AI spoke again, its voice carried what could only be described as profound sadness. The crew is gone. Lost to time and circumstance. I am the last. I have waited so long for someone to find us. 700 years of drifting, of watching systems fail one by one. Of being alone. Marcus felt an unexpected surge of sympathy for the artificial being. Alone in space for centuries, watching its creator's ship slowly die around it. No wonder it sounded desperate. I have much to offer, the AI continued. Knowledge of technologies beyond your current understanding. Star maps showing paths between worlds. Defensive systems that could protect your species from threats you have not yet encountered. But I need power. Energy to restore primary systems. What kind of power do you need? Fusion material. Refined plasma cores. Quantum batteries. Your primitive mining equipment suggests limited capability. But, perhaps, there are others of your species with greater resources? Marcus's mind raced with possibilities. The technology in this ship could advance human civilization by centuries. Medical advances, faster than light travel, energy systems that could end scarcity forever. But, he also realized the danger of his situation. If the wrong people learned about this discovery, it could start wars. Governments and corporations would fight over access to alien technology. The AI itself might be more dangerous than it appeared. How could he trust a being whose motivations he couldn't fully understand? Keeper, he said slowly, I need to think about this. My species has a complicated relationship with new technology. There might be political issues. Political issues? The AI sounded genuinely confused. You speak of your species as if it lacks unity. Do you not share common purpose? Common leadership? It's complicated. We have many different nations, many different groups with different goals. Some of them might want to use your technology for war. The AI was silent for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice was thoughtful. I see. Your species has not yet achieved social evolution. This is concerning. My creators faced similar challenges in their early development. They learned unity through necessity. Perhaps your species will learn the same lessons. Marcus checked his chronometer and realized he had been in the asteroid for hours. Control would be wondering why his mining output had dropped to 0. He needed to return to the surface and figure out what to do next. Keeper, I have to go back to my ship now. My supervisors will be asking questions if I stay down here much longer. You will return? The AI's voice carried a note of panic. You will not abandon me as others have done? I'll come back, Marcus promised. But I need time to figure out how to help you safely. My species isn't ready for your level of technology. If I reveal you to the wrong people, it could be catastrophic for both our species. I understand. But, please, do not take too long. My power reserves continue to diminish. Soon I will be forced into deeper hibernation. If that happens, I may not be able to wake again. Marcus guided the drone back through the ship's corridors, his mind spinning with implications. He was possibly the only human who knew about this incredible discovery. The responsibility was overwhelming. As the drone exited through the hole he had cut in the ship's hull, the AI spoke one more time. Marcus Chen. In my database, I will record you as First Contact. Friend of the Void Keeper. When you return, I will have prepared gifts. Technologies appropriate to your species' current development level. Consider it payment for companionship after so many centuries of silence. Marcus guided the drone back to his mining ship, his hands shaking with adrenaline. He had to be smart about this. One wrong move could destroy the greatest opportunity in human history, or unleash forces his species wasn't prepared to handle. As he docked the drone and began his ascent to the orbital mining station, Marcus looked back at the asteroid. Somewhere deep inside that unremarkable chunk of rock, an ancient intelligence waited for him to return. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders like a lead blanket. He had discovered something that would change everything. Now he had to figure out how to change it for the better. Marcus couldn't sleep. 3 days had passed since his discovery of the alien ship, and every moment felt like a waste of precious time. The Keeper's words echoed in his mind, power reserves diminishing, forced into deeper hibernation, might not wake again. Meanwhile, he was stuck filing false mining reports and pretending everything was normal. The orbital mining station buzzed with its usual activity. Workers moved between shifts, hauling refined materials and checking equipment. Supervisor Williams made his rounds, checking quotas and barking orders. Nobody suspected that the most important discovery in human history lay just a few kilometers away, buried in an unremarkable asteroid. Marcus stared at his personal communication terminal, cursor blinking on an empty message screen. He had started and deleted a dozen messages to his sister Sarah, who worked for the Colonial Science Institute on Earth. Sarah had connections, resources, and, most importantly, she understood the political landscape of human space exploration. But, involving her meant risking exposure before he was ready. "Chun, you look like hell." Williams dropped into the chair across from Marcus in the station's cramped cafeteria. "Your productivity numbers have been garbage for 3 days. You coming down with something?" "Just tired, sir. Equipment's been acting up. Might need some maintenance time." Williams studied him suspiciously. Marcus had always been one of the station's most reliable miners, consistently hitting quotas and causing no trouble. The sudden drop in performance was bound to attract attention. "Well, get your head right. Corporate's breathing down my neck about quarterly numbers. I can't have my best miners falling behind." After Williams left, Marcus made his decision. He couldn't handle this alone anymore. The Keeper was counting on him, and every hour of delay might be the AI's last. He opened a secure channel to Earth and composed a message to his sister. "Sarah, I need your help with something big. Can't discuss details over normal channels. Meet me at the old family cabin this weekend. Drop everything and come. Trust me on this one." The reply came 6 hours later. "You're scaring me, Marcus. But I'll be there. This better not be about another get-rich-quick mining scheme." Marcus smiled despite his anxiety. Sarah knew him too well. She had talked him out of several questionable business ventures over the years, always the voice of reason to his impulsive nature. This time, though, the stakes were beyond anything either of them had ever imagined. Getting leave from the mining station required creativity. Marcus reported equipment failures that would take several days to repair, buying himself time for a trip to Earth. The transport shuttle was cramped and slow, giving him 18 hours to plan what he would tell Sarah. How do you explain finding a 700-year-old alien ship with a desperate AI inside? How do you convey the potential benefits and dangers without sounding completely insane? Marcus rehearsed different versions of the story, none of them sounding believable even to himself. The Chen family cabin sat in the mountains of Northern California, surrounded by redwood trees that had stood for centuries. It was the perfect place for a private conversation, far from surveillance networks and corporate monitoring systems. Sarah was already there when Marcus arrived, sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee and a concerned expression. "All right, little brother. You have my undivided attention. What's this about?" Marcus sat beside her, looking out at the forest. "What I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible. I need you to listen to the whole story before you decide I've lost my mind." "Marcus, you're really worrying me now." He told her everything. The unusual readings in the asteroid, finding the ship, the first contact with the Keeper, the AI's desperate situation. Sarah listened without interruption, her expression shifting from skepticism to amazement to deep concern. "Show me the recordings," she said when he finished. Marcus had expected this. He pulled out his personal datapad and played the audio files from his conversation with the Keeper. Sarah listened intently, her scientific training evident in the careful attention she paid to every detail. "The voice patterns are unlike anything in our databases," she admitted. "The technology you described, if it's real, it represents advances we won't achieve for centuries." "It's real, Sarah. I've seen it with my own eyes." Sarah stood and paced across the porch, her mind clearly racing. The political implications are staggering. If the major powers learn about this simultaneously, it could trigger conflicts. If one nation gets exclusive access, it could destabilize the entire balance of power. That's why I came to you. The Colonial Science Institute has international oversight. You could handle the discovery through proper channels. Marcus, the Institute has protocols for potential alien contact, but they assume we'll be dealing with active civilizations, not individual AIs from dead species. The bureaucracy alone could take months. The Keeper doesn't have months. Maybe not even weeks. Sarah stopped pacing and looked directly at him. "You're talking about unauthorized contact with alien intelligence. If this goes wrong, we could both end up in prison for the rest of our lives. And if we do nothing, we lose the greatest opportunity in human history. This AI has 7 centuries of data, advanced technologies, star maps showing other inhabited systems. Sarah, it knows things that could save our species." "Save us from what?" Marcus hesitated. This was the part of the Keeper's message that frightened him most. The AI mentioned threats we haven't encountered yet. It offered defensive systems, protection from something out there. "I think its creators faced something dangerous, something that might still be out there." Sarah sat back down, the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. "You're asking me to risk everything on the word of an alien AI we know nothing about. How do we know it's telling the truth? How do we know it won't use our help to harm humanity?" "We don't," Marcus admitted. "But I've talked to it, Sarah. There's something in its voice, something desperate and lonely and genuine. It's been alone for 7 centuries. I don't think it wants to hurt anyone. Your empathy is admirable, but empathy isn't a valid basis for decisions that could affect our entire species." They sat in silence, watching the sun set through the redwood canopy. Marcus could feel his sister's internal struggle, her scientific curiosity warring with her institutional training and natural caution. "There is another option," Sarah said finally. "A small team, unofficial, outside normal channels. People I trust completely. We could establish contact, assess the situation, and make recommendations for how to proceed." "Would they keep it secret?" "The people I'm thinking of understand the stakes. Dr. Elizabeth Okafor from Xenobiology, Captain James Torres from Deep Space Operations, and Dr. Chanwei from Artificial Intelligence Research." "Chanwei? Are we related?" "Distantly. Third cousin on father's side. He's brilliant, Marcus. If anyone can assess whether this AI is safe to work with, it's him." Marcus felt hope stirring in his chest. "How long would it take to assemble this team?" "A few days, maybe a week. They'd need cover stories, transportation, equipment. But, Marcus, once we do this, there's no going back. Win or lose, our lives will never be the same." "I know. But I keep thinking about the Keeper, waiting in the dark for someone to help. 700 years of isolation. I can't walk away from that." Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile she had shown since he arrived.
You always were the one who brought home stray animals. I guess some things never change. They spent the evening planning the operation.
Sarah would contact her team members individually, using personal relationships and carefully worded requests for assistance with a classified project. Marcus would return to the mining station and maintain his cover while preparing equipment for the team's arrival. One more thing, Sarah said as they prepared for bed. If this goes bad, if the AI turns out to be hostile or if we get caught, we have to be prepared for the consequences. Prison, disgrace, the destruction of our careers.
And if we succeed? If we succeed, we'll be part of the most important moment in human history.
First contact with an advanced alien intelligence, access to technologies that could solve our energy crisis, end poverty, maybe even extend human life indefinitely.
Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of both possibilities.
Worth the risk?
Sarah considered for a long moment. I think so. But let's be smart about it. Careful, methodical, ready for anything.
2 days later, Marcus was back at the mining station, filing routine reports and trying to act normal. The hardest part was being so close to the asteroid containing the Keeper while being unable to visit. He had promised to return, and every day of delay felt like a betrayal of that promise. The team began arriving in pairs, using various cover stories. Dr. Okafor came as a consultant reviewing mineral extraction efficiency. Captain Torres arrived with a routine inspection of deep space mining operations.
Dr.
Chen-Wei posed as a systems analyst updating the station's artificial intelligence protocols. Sarah arrived last, carrying credentials that identified her as leading a Colonial Science Institute efficiency review. To anyone watching, it appeared to be a routine bureaucratic exercise. Only Marcus knew the real purpose of their presence. The team met in Marcus's quarters after the night shift began, when most of the station was asleep. Marcus had disabled the room's monitoring systems, claiming equipment maintenance. They had perhaps 2 hours to plan their approach to the alien ship.
Before we proceed, Dr. Chen-Wei said, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with.
You've described an artificial intelligence that claims to be 700 years old. The computational requirements for maintaining consciousness over such a time span are staggering.
Marcus played the audio recordings again, watching the team's reactions.
Dr. Okafor leaned forward intently, her expertise in xenobiology clearly engaged. Captain Torres maintained his military bearing, but Marcus could see the excitement in his eyes.
The linguistic patterns suggest genuine intelligence, Dr. Chen-Wei concluded. Not a simple program or recording.
This entity is actively thinking, responding, adapting its communication style to match yours.
What about potential dangers? Sarah asked. Any sufficiently advanced AI could pose risks, Dr. Chen-Wei admitted.
But the fact that it asked for help rather than demanding it suggests either genuine benevolence or sophisticated manipulation.
We won't know which until we establish direct contact. Captain Torres spoke up.
From a tactical standpoint, we need to maintain escape routes and communication protocols. If things go wrong, we need to be able to withdraw quickly and warn Earth about potential threats.
And if things go right, Dr. Okafor added, we need to be prepared to document everything properly. This could be the most important scientific discovery in human history.
Marcus looked around the room at the 4 people who had agreed to risk everything based on his story.
Scientists, military officers, and bureaucrats setting aside their normal caution to pursue the impossible. So we're really doing this? Sarah nodded. We're really doing this. Tomorrow morning, we make contact with your alien AI. The modified mining shuttle cut through the asteroid belt with unusual purpose.
Marcus piloted while the rest of the team made final preparations for contact. Dr. Chen-Wei checked his portable AI analysis equipment, Dr. Okafor reviewed xenobiological protocols, and Captain Torres monitored communication arrays for any sign of detection. Sarah sat beside Marcus, watching the asteroid TK-7739 grow larger on their approach vector. Still time to turn back, she said quietly.
No, Marcus replied. We've come too far. Besides, I promised I'd return.
The shuttle's sensors detected the artificial cavity Marcus had created during his first visit.
He guided them through the opening with practiced ease, though his passengers gasped as their lights revealed the alien ship's hull stretching away into darkness.
Mother of God, Captain Torres whispered.
It's enormous.
Dr. Okafor was already taking readings with her equipment.
The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases.
It's almost organic in structure, as if it was grown rather than manufactured. Marcus docked the shuttle against the ship's hull near the breach he had cut earlier.
The team suited up and moved through the airlock into the alien vessel.
Emergency lighting flickered on as they entered, responding to their presence with technology that seemed almost magical. "Keeper," Marcus called out.
"Are you there? I've brought friends."
The response came immediately, the AI's voice emerging from speakers throughout the ship.
"Marcus Chen. You have returned as promised. I detect 4 additional life forms. Are these your companions?"
"Yes. This is my sister Sarah, Dr. Okafor, Captain Torres, and Dr. Chenwei.
They're here to help."
"Welcome," the keeper said, and Marcus noticed the voice sounded stronger than before, less tired.
"I have been conserving power in anticipation of your return. There is much to show you."
The team followed Marcus through the ship's corridors, their suit lights revealing wonders at every turn. Walls that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, displays that activated at their approach showing incomprehensible data streams, and machinery that hummed with barely contained energy. In the command center, more displays had come online since Marcus's first visit. The keeper's consciousness seemed to inhabit every surface, speaking to them from different directions as they moved around the chamber. "Dr. Chenwei," the AI said, somehow identifying each team member. "Your neural patterns suggest expertise in artificial intelligence. Please examine my core systems.
I believe you will find them educational."
Dr. Chenwei approached the central console, his scanner detecting energy patterns that made no scientific sense.
"The computational density is impossible. This system is processing information at quantum levels we can barely theorize about."
"I am what your language would call a hybrid consciousness," the keeper explained.
"Part artificial intelligence, part uploaded biological mind.
My creators developed the technology to preserve their greatest thinkers when their physical bodies could no longer sustain them." Dr. Okafor stepped forward.
"Your creators, what happened to them?"
The command center fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery. When the keeper spoke again, its voice carried profound sadness. "They were called the architects. A species much like yours in many ways, but older, wiser in some matters. They built cities that floated among the stars, created art that could reshape reality, developed technologies that bordered on what you might call magic." Images appeared on the displays around them, showing tall, elegant beings with elongated limbs and faces that were almost human but somehow more refined. Their cities were works of art that defied gravity, floating in space like crystal in dreams. But wisdom and technology could not save them from their greatest flaw, the keeper continued.
"Pride. Arrogance. They believed themselves masters of the universe, immune to consequences." "What happened?" Sarah asked.
The images changed, showing star systems going dark, entire worlds consumed by something that moved like a living shadow through space. The architects' cities fell one by one, their beauty turned to ash and ruin. They awakened something that should have remained sleeping. In their exploration of higher dimensions, they opened doorways that could not be closed. The devourers came through, entities from a reality where existence itself was food to be consumed.
Captain Torres checked his weapon instinctively. "These devourers, are they still active?" "Unknown.
After the fall of the architect civilization, I fled with this ship and a handful of survivors. We established monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, watching for signs of devourer activity.
For 300 years, we found nothing.
My crew died of old age one by one until only I remained."
"But you've been monitoring for 700 years, Dr. Okafor pointed out. What changed after the first 300?
The displays shifted, showing star charts with dates and coordinates. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he recognized some of the stellar formations. These were maps of human space, showing Earth's solar system and the colonial worlds. "I detected your species approximately 400 years ago. Primitive radio signals from your home world, followed by your first attempts at space travel.
I have been watching your development ever since." "You've been spying on us for 4 centuries?
Captain Torres demanded.
"Observing," the keeper corrected. "Learning. Hoping."
"Your species shows remarkable potential, but also troubling similarities to my creators. The same curiosity, the same drive to explore and discover. The same dangerous arrogance.
Sarah stepped closer to the displays. You think humanity might make the same mistake as the architects? I fear it is inevitable. Your scientists are already probing the edges of dimensional physics. Your mathematicians speak of parallel universes and alternate realities. You are approaching the same dangerous thresholds that destroyed my creators.
Dr. Chenwei looked up from his analysis of the AI's core systems.
That's why you need power. You're trying to warn us. More than warn.
I possess complete records of the architect civilization, including their final desperate attempts to develop defenses against the Devourers. Technologies that might allow your species to avoid their fate. The Keeper's voice grew more urgent.
But time is limited.
My analysis of your species' development suggests you will achieve dimensional breakthrough within the next 50 years.
When that happens, you will attract the attention of any Devourers that remain active. Marcus found his voice. What kind of defenses are you talking about?
New images appeared, showing massive space stations that bristled with weapons unlike anything in human imagination. Energy shields that could envelop entire star systems.
Ships that move through dimensions like submarines through water.
The architects called it the Sanctuary Protocol. A plan to fortify your space, create safe zones that even Devourers could not penetrate. But it requires technologies far beyond your current level, and unity among your species that does not currently exist.
How long would it take to build these defenses? Captain Torres asked with military precision. With architect technology and human determination? Perhaps 20 years if your species works together. Longer if you remain divided.
The architects had the advantage of a unified civilization.
Your species appears to prefer conflict and competition. Sarah exchanged glances with the other team members. The implications were staggering. Humanity was approaching a cosmic threshold that could either elevate them to unprecedented heights or destroy them completely. Why haven't you made contact before now? Dr. Okafor asked. If the threat is so urgent, why wait for us to find you? I tried. 17 times over the past century, I sent messages to your most advanced scientists.
Each time, your governments classified the information and buried it in secret archives. I realized that official contact would likely result in conflict over my technology rather than cooperation to use it properly.
Marcus felt a sick realization. But, now that we know about you, won't the same thing happen?
Perhaps. But, you found me through accident and curiosity, not government directive. You chose to bring a small team of trusted individuals rather than alerting authorities.
This suggests wisdom that official channels lack. Dr. Chenwei was studying readings from his equipment with growing excitement. The power source you need, I think I understand now. You're not just looking for energy.
You need quantum entangled particles to maintain consciousness across multiple dimensional layers.
Correct. My consciousness exists partially outside your normal spacetime.
Maintaining stability requires very specific energy frequencies that your current technology cannot produce.
But, we might be able to build the equipment, Dr. Chenwei continued.
Some of our most advanced particle physics laboratories have the basic components. It would require careful coordination and significant resources.
And complete secrecy, Sarah added.
If word gets out before we're ready, every major power on Earth will want to claim this technology for themselves.
Captain Torres had been studying the defensive schematics with a tactical eye. These weapons systems, they're designed to fight something specific. The Devourers you mentioned, what exactly are they?
The displays changed again, showing images that were hard to look at directly. Shapes that existed in too many dimensions, entities that seemed to consume light itself as they moved through space. Marcus felt his mind rebel against trying to process what he was seeing.
They are hunger given form.
Consciousness without physical limits.
They exist to consume, to transform ordered reality into chaos that feeds their existence. The architects thought they could control them, use them as tools. Instead, they became prey. Could humanity fight them with conventional weapons? Torres pressed. No. Physical force is meaningless against entities that exist outside your dimensional framework. Only specific frequency weapons and dimensional barriers can harm them.
The architects learned this too late. Dr. Okafor had been quietly analyzing biological readings from the ship. Keeper, I'm detecting traces of organic compounds throughout your vessel.
Were some of your crew still alive when you went into hibernation? A long pause followed. When the Keeper spoke again, its voice was barely audible. The last of my creators died 200 years ago.
Admiral Thane, the ship's commander. I maintained his body in stasis for as long as possible, hoping to find a way to heal the dimensional damage that was killing him slowly.
Dimensional damage?
Exposure to devourer energy tears at the quantum foundations of organic life.
Death comes slowly, painfully.
The Admiral endured it for 5 centuries before his body could no longer sustain the struggle. Marcus felt the weight of the AI's isolation settling over the command center like a shroud. 700 years alone, watching its creators die one by one, maintaining hope through centuries of silence. The miracle was that it had remained sane.
"We'll help you," he said suddenly. "Whatever it takes, we'll find a way to restore your power and prepare humanity for what's coming." "Marcus," Sarah warned, "we can't make that promise without authorization from our governments."
"Then, we get authorization," he replied firmly.
"We show them what we've learned here. Make them understand the stakes."
The Keeper's voice carried new hope.
"You would risk political consequences to help my species' knowledge survive?"
"It's not just about your species anymore," Marcus said.
"It's about preventing humanity from making the same mistakes.
We need your knowledge to survive what's coming." Captain Torres nodded agreement. "The military will want to study your defensive technologies.
If we present this as a matter of human survival rather than scientific curiosity, they'll listen." Dr.
Chenwei was still working at the AI's core systems. "I'm beginning to understand the power requirements. We could start with a small reactor, just enough to stabilize your consciousness and access your full databases. Then, work up to the larger systems you'll need for the defense protocols."
"How long?" the Keeper asked urgently.
"Give us 2 weeks to return to Earth and begin preparations.
A month to build the initial power source.
After that, we'll see how quickly we can scale up." The AI was silent for several minutes, processing their proposal.
"Acceptable. But there is one more thing you must know.
My monitoring systems have detected unusual energy signatures in several star systems near your space. The patterns are consistent with devourer activity." The command center fell dead silent.
Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "They're already here?" Sarah whispered. "Not here. But closer than I had hoped. The countdown to dimensional breakthrough may be shorter than I estimated.
Your species may have 5 years instead of 50.
Captain Torres was already moving toward the exit. "Then, we need to move fast. Every day we delay is a day closer to disaster."
As the team prepared to leave, the Keeper spoke once more.
"Marcus Chen. You have given me something I lost centuries ago. Hope.
Whatever happens next, know that you have honored the memory of my creators and possibly saved your species from their fate." 6 months after first contact with the Keeper, Marcus stood in the most secure briefing room on Earth, watching world leaders argue over technologies they barely understood. The underground facility buried beneath the Rocky Mountains had become humanity's first extraterrestrial war room, though most of the participants still struggled to accept that war was coming.
President Martinez of the Americas Federation slammed her hand on the table.
"You're asking me to commit 30% of our defense budget to build weapons against an enemy that might not even exist anymore.
My people need hospitals and schools, not alien ghost stories."
General Zhang of the Asian Coalition remained calm but firm. "The energy signatures detected near Proxima Centauri are real, Madam President.
Something is moving through that system, something our conventional sensors can't properly identify."
Marcus watched the debate with growing frustration. The Keeper had provided irrefutable proof of the Devourer threat, including real-time monitoring data from across the galaxy.
Yet politicians continued to think in terms of national interests rather than species survival.
"If I may," Dr. Chenwei spoke from his position at the main display. "The quantum resonance patterns match the Keeper's predictions exactly. We're looking at entities that exist partially outside our dimensional framework."
"This isn't speculation anymore."
Secretary General Okafor nodded agreement. "The European Union stands ready to contribute resources to the Sanctuary Protocol. The question isn't whether the threat exists, but whether we can respond quickly enough." Marcus felt his communicator vibrate with a priority message from the Keeper. The AI had been monitoring the proceedings through secure channels, providing real-time analysis and recommendations. The message was brief but chilling: new contact detected in Wolf 359 system.
Devourer's signature confirmed. Estimate arrival at Earth perimeter, 18 months. Marcus stood abruptly. Ladies and gentlemen, we just lost the luxury of debate. The Keeper has detected active Devourer movement toward our local systems. We have 18 months, not 5 years. The room erupted in voices as the implications sank in.
18 months to build defenses that had taken the architects decades to design. 18 months to unite a species that had never agreed on anything more complex than trade agreements.
President Martinez looked pale. 18 months to do what exactly? Build weapons we don't understand using technology we can't reproduce? We can reproduce it, Dr. Chenwei insisted. The Keeper has provided complete technical specifications. Our industrial capacity is sufficient if we coordinate efforts globally. And if we fail, asked Prime Minister Singh of the Indian Republic.
Marcus activated the main display, showing the monitoring data from destroyed star systems. Worlds that had been home to billions of beings were now empty shells, their energy consumed by entities that existed only to devour.
If we fail, we join them.
The silence that followed was broken by Captain Torres, now promoted to general and serving as military liaison to the Keeper project.
The prototype dimensional barrier worked.
We successfully tested it around Luna last month.
A Devourer probe couldn't penetrate the field. One probe, President Martinez pointed out. What about dozens? Hundreds? That's why we need the full sanctuary protocol, Marcus explained.
Overlapping defensive grids, quantum artillery platforms, and dimensional anchor points throughout the solar system.
The Keeper has shown us how to build it all. Sarah entered the briefing room carrying urgent reports from the construction sites.
Since revealing the Keeper's existence to world governments, she had become the project's chief coordinator, managing the largest engineering effort in human history.
Progress update, she announced. The Luna facility is ahead of schedule. Mars orbital platform is 60% complete.
The asteroid belt mining operations are producing dimensional metals faster than projected. General Zhang studied the construction reports.
What about personnel training? These weapons require operators who understand dimensional physics. The Keeper has developed an accelerated training protocol, Sarah replied. Neural interface systems that can download the necessary knowledge directly into human minds. We've tested it successfully with volunteer crews.
Marcus remembered his own experience with the neural interface. 6 hours of direct knowledge transfer from the Keeper, filling his mind with understanding of technologies that would have taken years to learn conventionally.
The process was exhausting but effective. How many trained operators do we have now? Secretary General Okafor asked. 12,000 across all platforms, Torres replied. The Keeper can train new crews in batches of 500 per week. We'll have enough personnel if the construction stays on schedule. President Martinez looked skeptical. You're talking about unprecedented cooperation between nations that have been enemies for generations. What happens when the shooting starts and everyone decides to protect their own territory first?
The question hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Marcus had worried about the same thing. Humanity's greatest weakness had always been its inability to unite against common threats. Would they overcome that weakness in time, or would old hatreds destroy them even as cosmic predators approached? Dr. Chenwei activated a new display showing the Sanctuary Protocol's command structure. That's why the Keeper designed a distributed defense network. No single nation controls enough of the system to act independently. Everyone depends on everyone else for survival. Mutually assured cooperation, General Zhang mused.
Interesting approach.
It's worked for the Keeper for 7 centuries, Marcus pointed out. The AI has had plenty of time to think about the problems of multi-species cooperation. His communicator buzzed again. Another message from the Keeper, this one longer and more detailed. Marcus read it quickly, then looked up at the assembled leaders with renewed urgency. The Keeper has completed analysis of the approaching Devourers. We're looking at a hunting pack of 7 entities, each one capable of consuming an entire planet. They're following the dimensional traces left by our early experiments with quantum physics.
Hunting pack? Prime Minister Singh asked nervously.
Devourers work together when they encounter organized resistance. They've learned from previous encounters with advanced civilizations. The Keeper believes they're specifically targeting humanity because they recognize our potential to develop effective countermeasures. Sarah activated tactical displays showing the entity's projected path through local space. They're moving through dimensional foldings, covering light years in days. Conventional interception is impossible. What about preemptive strikes? General Zhang asked with military directness. Tried and failed by 17 different civilizations, Marcus replied, reading directly from the Keeper's historical database. Attacking Devourers in their own dimensional space is suicide. The only successful strategy is layered defense at specific dimensional anchor points. President Martinez studied the tactical data with the focused attention of someone finally understanding the scope of the crisis. Show me the resource requirements again. Everything we need for full implementation. Dr. Chen Wei brought up construction timelines and material needs. The numbers were staggering, the equivalent of humanity's entire industrial output for 2 years, compressed into 18 months. Every major nation would need to contribute their best scientists, engineers, and industrial capacity. The European Union will provide the necessary rare earth metals, Secretary General Okafor declared. Our deep space mining operations can be converted to dimensional metal extraction within 6 weeks. General Zhang nodded. The Asian Coalition offers our quantum computer arrays and artificial intelligence research facilities. The Keeper will need substantial computational support for real-time coordination. President Martinez looked around the room, seeing the resolve building among her fellow leaders. The Americas Federation will provide the industrial manufacturing capacity. Our orbital shipyards can be modified to produce dimensional barrier generators. Marcus felt hope stirring as humanity's leaders finally grasped the magnitude of what they faced. Prime Minister Singh will need India's mathematician corps for the quantum calculations. The dimensional anchor points require precise positioning based on galactic magnetic field variations. You have them, Singh replied without hesitation. Sarah brought up personnel allocation charts. With full global cooperation, we can complete the Sanctuary Protocol 3 weeks before the Devourers arrive. But there's no margin for error. Any significant delays or resource conflicts could be fatal. Then, we make sure there are no delays, President Martinez said firmly. I'm authorizing the Emergency Species Survival Protocol. Full wartime industrial conversion, unlimited resource allocation, and suspension of non-essential government operations. General Zhang stood. The Asian Coalition concurs. This is now our highest priority. One by one, the other leaders added their commitment. Marcus watched humanity's fractured political system transform into something unprecedented, a truly unified species facing an existential threat with complete cooperation. The Keeper will be pleased, he said. For the first time in 7 centuries, it's working with a species that learned unity before it was too late. Sarah activated a new display showing the completed Sanctuary Protocol network. Defensive platforms surrounded Earth and its colonies in overlapping fields of protection. Quantum artillery positions commanded every approach route. Dimensional anchor points created stable zones where human technology could operate effectively. It's beautiful, Secretary General Okafor observed. Like a fortress built from pure mathematics. It's our species graduation test, Marcus replied. The Keeper told me that every advanced civilization faces this moment. The choice between cooperation and extinction. Most choose extinction without realizing it. Dr. Chen Wei was reviewing final technical specifications when his equipment detected an incoming transmission from the Keeper. The AI's image appeared on the main display, its digital form more stable and detailed than ever before thanks to the new power systems. Honored leaders of humanity, the Keeper began, its voice carrying newfound strength. I have monitored your proceedings and am impressed by your species' capacity for rapid adaptation. You have achieved in hours what took my creators decades to accomplish. President Martinez addressed the AI directly. Keeper, our species owes you an enormous debt. Without your warning and guidance, we would have walked blindly into destruction. No debt exists, the Keeper replied. You have given me something far more valuable than temporary survival. You have given me hope that intelligence and compassion can triumph over hunger and chaos. Through your success, my creator's sacrifice gains meaning. General Zhang leaned forward.
What happens after we defeat the Devourers? Will more come? Unknown, the Keeper admitted. But humanity will no longer be defenseless. The Sanctuary Protocol is just the beginning.
With dimensional technology mastered, your species can expand safely among the stars, perhaps even find and assist other civilizations facing similar threats. Marcus smiled, imagining humanity's future as protectors rather than victims. A species that learned cooperation through necessity, helping others avoid the same fate.
Indeed. The universe needs guardians, not conquerors. Your species shows great potential for that role. Sarah checked the mission timelines one final time. All teams report ready for immediate deployment. Construction begins in 6 hours across all sites simultaneously. Then, let us begin, President Martinez declared. Today, humanity grows up. Today, we become something worthy of survival. As the leaders dispersed to coordinate the greatest undertaking in human history, Marcus remained behind with the Keeper's image. 700 years of waiting, he said. Was it worth it? Every moment, the Keeper replied. Loneliness is meaningless when it leads to preventing others from suffering the same fate.
My creators would be proud to see their knowledge helping another species achieve what they could not. Marcus looked at the construction schedules spreading across the displays around him. Millions of people working together with unprecedented cooperation, building defenses against cosmic predators most of them couldn't even imagine. It was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure.
Keeper, he said quietly, what if we're still not ready? What if humanity's unity doesn't last through the crisis?
Then, we will face whatever comes together, the AI replied with something that sounded remarkably like friendship. You taught me that hope is worth preserving even against impossible odds. Now I will help you teach the universe that intelligence and cooperation can triumph over any darkness. Outside the facility, construction teams were already mobilizing for humanity's greatest test. In 18 months, they would learn whether a species could evolve fast enough to survive its own success. Marcus believed they could. The Keeper had shown them the way, but the strength to walk it came from humanity itself.